Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another From the Depths video. In this video, we're going to be starting off the construction for an 18th century 36-gun frigate. This video will be covering the initial construction of the hull, going over concepts and certain principles for designing the initial ship in the hull. On my left here is the Bermuda's Curse III. It's a 54-gun frigate showcased in the last video in that battle. I will be using it as a learning tool and reference, and to use it every now and then to sort of explain the concepts being used on the ship we construct. The ship will be constructed at about a 2-to-1 scale, but I do think that the concepts are also pretty easy to apply at 1-to-1 if you're going for that sort of thing. So, on that note, let's go ahead and get started with the construction. And we'll kind of take a look here at the Bermuda's Curse as well, starting off to see sort of what we want to go for. So, in this ship here, the Curse here, you can sort of see what we want to go for regarding the hull shaping. You can kind of see, based on looking at it from the outside, that it's sort of like an elongated, maybe elongated bathtub, sort of. I mean, of course, it's more complicated than that. But we'll kind of do a cutaway here so we can see the exact shaping of what's going on. So, coming up from above, we'll go ahead and look at it from the keel up. So, starting at the keel, it goes up into this sort of shape. And right away we begin to notice the aft has a much longer taper going towards it. But it's still that sort of oval shape. So it's not doing any weird inversions or anything necessarily. It's all pretty straightforward. Same with the bow section as well. You can see it's not tapered nearly as strongly as the aft, but it still comes together up here to a more rounded point, but it's definitely a little more blunt than the aft. So we're going to go ahead and go up further, and you can see this principle still being applied. Stern has a long taper. Up to the bow here, it's got a shorter taper as well. And continuing further up, same concept, keeps going up further. And then it starts to sort of fill in, so it rounds out, creates that sort of bulbous shape at the front. And then at the stern, it fills in, and then it starts to cut off here where the transom is. The transom is the sort of back piece of the ship. It looks like it's like cut off almost. So we'll keep going up here. See the same thing. Same stuff applies. The bow is sort of brought up. The sides start to be brought up. Same with the stern. But here you can see the stern transom is a lot more prominent here. Going up further, we can start going into the tumble home a little bit, but I think the tumble home will save for the next video when we start to construct the rest of the hull. But you can sort of see it starts to bring in, and there's the deck line, or the top deck line. So, going through it again, you can sort of see the shaping as it goes up. And that's sort of what we'll be working with. The ship we'll be constructing won't be as big, since it's just 36 guns compared to this one, which is 54. We'll go ahead and do it from the middle as well. So, looking at the middle here, you can see it's got a pretty rounded shape going down to the keel. So beginning at the beam, goes almost straight down. I usually do an angle here and then go into a 1x1 slope, and it flattens out just a little bit towards the bottom. But we'll take it back a little bit, and as we go back, we'll begin to see that it starts to narrow and sort of forms this V shape. So going way back into the stern, it's got more of a V shape going for it. Typically, sailing vessels will have more of a concave shape here, but really depends what you want to go for. I typically go for a more bulbous design since it does help out with stability. But I did implement that sort of concavity a little bit at least regarding this shape here, so we can see it forms a V shape and then it actually tapers down and continues into the keel, and we can see that concept here as well, and it sort of carries up into the transom and it creates that sort of slimmed down design towards the aft. And of course that's all to help hydrodynamic flow. In front of the depths, I don't know if it actually has a practicality, but it at least looks nice. So going back, sort of see the whole thing here. We'll also do a sideways cutaway to sort of see what we have going on here. It's a little bit hard to see. I put sections of the ship on spin blocks to accomplish the deck shear. I built the ship for a tournament, so the frame where the spin blocks sit on is out of wood, but I typically do construct the frame where all the spin blocks sit on out of metal, just so that in combat it won't be shot off right away. But it seems to be doing pretty well, so we'll kind of demonstrate that spin block shear as we go on forward with the tumble home. But in this video, we won't really need to worry about it too much. So, getting into the actual construction, we're going to be making, of course, a 36 gun frigate. So, what I usually start with is I like to sort of outline or draw where the gun ports will be, because that sort of dictates in a way how long the ship will be. So, with it being 36, what I would like to do is I'll probably allocate 17 on each side, and then I'll reserve 2 more for the bow chasers. So I'll do some bow chasers on this ship. So let me do some red here, and then we'll kind of do. Let's see. We'll start here. That's fine. We'll do 3 blocks in between. That's usually a good amount for gun ports. Even before, I typically don't go any less than 3 though, as it makes it look a little bit compact unless you're doing the smaller ship. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. And we'll kind of bring this out more. So we want to get to 17. And what I'll probably do is I'll put a few more on a second deck above this one as well. As typically there would be more guns on like the quarter deck or the weather deck, for example. So we'll kind of go into that more in a little bit. So we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then on a second deck up here, we'll make the next deck up. And I think we're at 14. We can have 3. Maybe I'll put 2 back here. I'll do it kind of offset like that, and then we'll put 1 up here. So that should kind of work for our outline. Well, actually, you know what? I'll throw this one back. I'll put it back. It'll look better. not going off any specific plans or anything, sort of doing it off the wall, so y'all can hopefully uh, gather how my process works at least. Of course, this might not work for everyone. You can start however the hell you want, uh, but I think this is usually the best way to do it for myself at least. So we'll carry on from here. So now what we would like to do is we want to kind of get a feel for the proportions of the ship. So to do that, I think we can. So this will be where like the sort of center stripe of the ship will be. Typically, warships back then in the 18th century or so, they would usually have that stripe down the middle. On the curse over there, I made it a little more exaggerated. I brought it down a couple more blocks. That one's actually a little bit bigger than typically seen, just because the freeboard is so much. But on this one, I think we'll reserve maybe a couple blocks or so of freeboard. Maybe we'll do 3. So three blocks of freeboard. I'll kind of just do a rough mock-up of it here, and I'll actually bring it forward because this will also be where our widest point of the ship will be. So the widest point will be slightly forward. It won't be exactly in the middle. Going back to what we saw on the vertical cutaway of the ship, where the stern had a much longer taper to it than the bow does. So factoring in that, we can sort of place it forward of the center of mass here. Then we'll mirror it and we'll bring it out. I could say, based on the length, I think this might work. I typically do maybe 12 blocks or so, 12 or 13 blocks. It usually works for frigates like these. Bigger ones might be 14. We might have to go 14, but we'll see. We'll see what the outline looks like. We'll do sort of a cutaway at the center line here. I think we'll make the draft that much. We're going to kind of have a deeper draft, especially for these vessels that use the stock game sails, as they're a little bit notorious for tipping over ships. So it's usually pretty good to design a deeper draft. So for this one, I'll do it like this. I'll bring it up using 2-meter down slopes, and then of course here is the water line. So green. These colors are temporary. I'm just using them for now, so you don't have to mark it out and change all the paint later on. And I think we can sort of bring it out like that. This is of course where the beakhead of the ship will be. It's that sort of basket weave looking design that's present on these ships of this time. So this is our bow post sort of design here. We can change it later on if it doesn't look right, but I usually go for this shape, so it comes out maybe a 2-meter slope. A lot of ships can be different. Depends also what time period it is. So I think like earlier time periods will come way out and then up, and then I've seen some that are pretty shallow as well, so they go up this much when they go out this much instead of all the way up here. But I like it in the middle here. I like designing it like this. I think it looks pretty good. So continuing on, we can throw this in so it's not ugly pink, and then bringing it back, design the stern post, Then we can bring it here. This goes up 2 blocks, and the water line's here. And then this will be where our stern galley will be. So we can sort of plan ahead at what this will look like. I think I want to do it like that, so there'll be some room here for the stern galley. Maybe I'll bring the whole thing back and block, so that might work better. Just like that. I think we can use, this is just for general shaping, this isn't going to be permanent, but we can use that sort of angle to help us know the reaches of the stern galley, and it'll sort of like it'll come out to the sides, and it'll probably like end up here. And then the reason I brought it out is because it'll taper in to the side of the ship like that. Which, I mean, even this might be too much still, but we'll see. We can probably move the gun up a block or so too. So, as we can see, it's starting to take shape. We sort of start to see what it's going to look like here. So now we might have a better gauge of what we want the width to be. So I think I'm comfortable with making this, I think, a block wider. And that should be good. So we can do like this 4 meter. I like to stagger them too. And then we'll do the tumble home. This will of course be the stripe, so I'm going to paint it differently. Leave a little gap there for the gun port. And then it goes straight up again. Yep, that should be a good width. I think that'll work. I know it seems a little bit random, but as you build these more, you'll kind of get familiar with the sort of proportions that they should be at. It helps to look at plans often. If you do build a replica, like a sailing ship replica, pretty good to use like a hologram in game too, to base the ship off of. But next we're going to design the water line here. I'll kind of bring it out that much. Maybe I might make this an 8 meter or 6 meter slope here. So the thing with this is to not screw ourselves up down below. I always go in even numbers, save for the 1 meter slopes. I still use 1 meter slopes, but those 1 meter slopes will actually be key. So I'll usually go from 8 to 4 or 6 to 4 and then 4 to 2. And I think, let's see, maybe we can do this from here instead. We want to leave like a block or so from the edge because the keel usually sticks out a little bit. So maybe we can do something like this. Something like that. That might screw up our gun up here. Maybe we can move this either back or we can move it up there. I could move the entire bow post as well, but that's fine. I feel like it. So I'll move it there. That's fine. Go to 1 meter. And then to 2 meter. To 4 meter. And then I think we can use a 6 meter slope here. So, of course, 6 meter slopes don't exist in the game. However, we'll use mimics and decoration blocks. I'm a stubborn person. I still use mimics for the hole. They still work out hydrodynamically. They still work for reducing drag. So I'm not worried about using mimics. And but you can do whatever you want. You can use decorations and use like a slope here in place or cover over it or anything like that. But I'm gonna go ahead and just put a mimic here so we have a good reference of what we want to do. So down slope. I'll use a 3 meter and extend it by 2. Go forward 0.5. Cool. So there's our bow shape. That kind of looked good. Now we're going to go ahead and start bringing it back. And then for this, maybe we would like to start right here. And we'll start it off with an 8 meter slope. Of course, the highest to go is 10 meter with default game limits. Maybe that should work. Then I think I can go to 6. Maybe that starts out too early. I'm gonna bring this back a couple more blocks. So I'll go 8 here. 6 here. Oh, maybe too much. Maybe I'll go 4. 4 to 2 to 2 to 1 to 1. Boom. So, as before, there's that sort of, I guess, elongated teardrop. I guess it's not a teardrop, but the stern tapers, has a longer taper than the bow does, and it's gonna come in. Yeah. Yep, that should work. The bow, yeah, it's a little more blunt. And then for this, we can start doing the slopes here. Copy this, just bring it back here. Instead of that, I'll do that. And then we'll make this a 4 meter. What would I actually like to do, though? I think I might use a transition here. This is all part of the process. Yeah, forgive me if it looks like I'm doing random stuff, but this sort of comes as the ship gets built. So I'll usually I'll decide stuff like this, because what we want to do is when we start to do the top deck line, it's gonna shy away from this curve, so it's just gonna keep going all the way back here. This will probably be like where it'll be at, but you can see it's the taper, or the curve, is much less significant as it goes up. So we want to sort of plan ahead. We want to plan ahead, if that makes sense. So this is going to go 2 to 3, and of course this is still fine to use. The 3-meter slope is fine right here, not down here though. We don't want to use 3-meter slopes down because it'll screw up everything. But 3-meter here is good, and this will allow us to sort of have a nice transition here into using the 1-meter slopes and end it off with a little corner piece like that. On this vessel, we probably won't have as significant as a transom on as that one. They can definitely vary between time period as well, but that's very specific stuff. This is more so just a sort of general thing. But if you do want to pay attention to like certain vessels, some of them will have a flatter end, some of them will have a much pointier end. It all depends, and really if you if you want to do like a flatter end, you can just shave it down a couple blocks and it'll get you the sort of thing you desire. So you can do it all the way out here probably, but I do like the pointier sort of design to it. So moving on, we now have our whole shape here. I'm going to copy this to the other side. There we go. And what we can do is, I mean, we're not going to be doing the tumble home or anything like that today, but we can do the top deck line. And for this part, we'll want to bring it in. We want to sort of follow the tapering at the start, but then we want to slowly sort of close that gap. So what we can do is, I think we can end the tumble home here, or this might work better using an 8-meter slope here, and then we bring it in, it goes to a 4-meter, and then here they join. So it becomes straight up and down here. Let's put a slope here. And I think for this, since this is where the beakhead will be, I think I can leave that out of it for now. Possibly. We could either do a design where it's sort of streamlined and this part keeps going all the way to here, but I do like the sort of beakhead design like that one, the sort of less streamlined one. So I think I'm going to leave the little cutout here. This is typically what would occur on ships like these, so they would have a little cutout. Deck line continues like that, and then I think our bow is going forward a little bit too far, so I think I'm going to bring it in a block or so. That might work better. I do think this is a little bit too far back, so I think I may end up trying to do a 2-meter here. That might work better. Yeah, I think that'll look pretty good. Okay. And this kind of works out nicely too, because on older ships, the front, or I guess the bow and the top here actually had a little bit of concavity to help split the waves. So instead of just being straight up and down like this, it would kind of come forward, and we'll see if we can figure that out later on once we get to doing this tumble home. So that should work out okay. And then we'll move on to the stern side here. We'll do the same concept, so we'll sort of follow that curve. Is it 3 meters? So it's even. We'll follow the curve, and then this is where we want to start to bringing it closer, closing that gap, like we said before. So I'm going to use an 8-meter slope here. Maybe we can use a 10-meter slope on this one. I think I'm comfortable doing that. And then we'll use an 8 here. I think that'll make sense for what we want to do. And then this will be brought to the inner part. So cool. I think that works out fine. Works out just okay. So as I said before, right, this it closes the gap, but then it shoots past it. So the deck on top is going to come out all the way to here. And to sort of help ourselves with joining that gap, we want to kind of do that 2 to 3 meter transition, and then following that, we'll probably do like a 3 to 4 meter or something up here. So now, as we can see, the shape is definitely coming along a lot better. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start moving on to doing the draft. So I always like to do the drafts first before I do anything with that. So we're going to sort of follow. I'm going to use a 4-meter downslope, color it red, and then I'll go to 1 meter. 2 meter, 3 meter. That should work out fine. Yeah. So, like I showed earlier on the cursor over there, it's got sort of like a bathtub shape to it. It's pretty rounded off on the bottom. And we can sort of, we can extend that a little bit in both directions to get a good idea. Gonna use a 4-meter slope, 4-meter beam. Cool. So we got a nice little shape going here. And now we gotta fill it in. So continuing on, gonna work on filling out the bow section here of the draft. So I think what I would like to do is take it from a 4-meter slope down to a 2-meter, and then this will just carry on over here. So I'm going to go ahead and I think I'll do, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I'll start here. We'll do wood. Is it 2-meter to 4-meter? That by 8, 3.5. Right, so now we have this transition here. What we're going to do a wood triangle. This is 6 meter. Scale it by 2, and boom. Now we can take it, copy it, do an inverted slope. Boom. And then we'll be able to do the same thing here. Do a wood triangle. Boom. And then we'll just do triangle, right, 2 meter. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll just let's copy this real quick. Inverted. Boom. So now we have that started. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to begin to use these ones. Right. So then this will get brought up to here. Boom. And then we'll see. So we already have that sort of shape coming along. Now what I'm going to do is I'll copy this. I'm going to use this inverted. I'm going to put it right here. Basically all this is like a giant puzzle, right? I'm gonna get it all to fit here. Just putting it into place. Boom. Boom. This gets brought down. Boom. Now, I'm not going to use a, I'm not going to use it inverting back here. What I'm going to do, since this is a 4 meter transition, I'm going to use the 2 meter inverse ones. 2 by 1. That'll allow me to do that and make a nice transition here. So this is what I was talking about here, is using a 3 meter wouldn't allow me to do that. Using a 3 meter slope up here would not allow me to split it down the middle and be able to use the 1 by 1 slopes, or the inverted slopes, whatever they might be. But that's the reason for it, is it's going to be the same sort of thing in the stern. So we can see it's creating a nice looking transition so far, nice sloping. And then for this, we'll go ahead and just copy that there. We'll just unscale it. Then we'll copy that. And use a wood triangle corner. Same thing here. Wood, inverted. Use a 3 meter so we can turn that into a 6 meter. And boom. And boom. Right. So now we're going to kind of see. We might be in a bit of a conundrum here. But fear not. In order to get this to follow, we might have to do some trickery here to try to get it to flow correctly, but we're gonna see what we can do. So I'm gonna try to use front one. Let's put 5 that way. Cool. So I think we can work with that, and then we can bring this in. What I'm gonna do is I'll put a 2-meter triangle there. And what that allows is I'll be able to get that sort of effect where it has a little bit of concavity in the bow section. Not as much as the stern, but it's still sort of there. So let's see what we can turn this into. This might get a little weird though. Might be able to use a 2-meter inverted slope. We'll do that. Expand it by 2. Okay, yeah, that sort of works there like that. So now we have that sort of concavity going, which should work. And then I'm fine with down here. I'm not going to try to continue it unless I do something like this. So then it'll sort of follow. And then we'll do a 2-meter offset. Boom. And then now, this might get a little interesting. Now what we can do is I might try to see if we can use one of those inverse transitions. Yeah, okay, that'll work. Let's see, 1 meter to 2 meter inverse transition. Right. That'll be done right here. There we go. And that will sort of allow this nice transition down here over into where it expands outward. And then let's see how to do it. I'm going to I see. I'm going to do the same thing, except like this. So wood, 1 meter, 2 meter, and I think this one should be a slope transition. Yep, and then move it like that. So then it'll start to flare out, and that's what we want. And this bottom will continue this way, and then this will start to flare out as well, because how this is going to work is we're going to take this and do a wood 2 meter to 3 meter, no sorry, wood 2 meter offset. We'll do 6, 2.5. here. Except it'll be 8. There we go. So this flows correctly into there. Cool. Now we're gonna do the same sort of transition block thing here. I'm gonna do a 1 meter to 2 meter slope transition. There we go, 6 blocks. 2.5. Boom. And then we'll copy it, put it here. Wood 2 meter to 3 meter. Same thing. Nice. So that is looking good. You can see how we have that sort of concavity in the front here. It's supposed to be sort of a V shape on the front to help break the water as it goes through, and then it transitions into this nice sort of bulbous shape. I'm just gonna fill this in so it's not showing. Fill this in real quick. Kind of layer it up here. Layer it up just so these mimics have some sort of backing to them. Too easy. Too easy. This here. Cool. So why isn't that stick? Those will be worked out once. There. Cool. Now we're just going to copy it over. Cool, so that's the bow section complete, at least with the draft of the hull. I do like this method as it adheres mostly to the block grid system. All it is just expanded transition blocks. But I understand it can be a little bit confusing though regarding figuring out the sort of puzzle that it all fits into. But basically it all comes down to this waterline draft here, and then it just gets brought down from there, and then you just might have to do a little bit of little weirdness here, but in the end, it's all well and good towards the shape of the hole. So, with that out of the way, we're going to continue on and complete the aft. So the aft, I think, is actually more straightforward than the bow section. And we're going to start it off the same way. We're going to go with a 2 meter to, or 2 meter to 4 meter. That's 8 there, okay. It's the 8 meter, 2 meter to 4 meter, and go ahead and keep going with this. Wood triangle left 4. This is an 8 meter slope, so it's expanded by 2. Boom. We'll bring this in, put inverted. Do that. There we go. Wood, triangle, left 4. Oh, we know it. They're already used. There we go. Reset it. Nice. So we have that shape going. And what we'll be able to do is, I think... Yep. Okay. We'll be able to do it right. So as you can see here, because we didn't use any uneven transitions, that being the 3 meter slope, we can just do this. Connects right into there. Just like that. Makes a nice, smooth transition. And then what I like to do here is I do this little tidbit. And this will be offset potential. And then we'll continue that in a second once we get this. So this is kind of where it blends into the keel. Where it goes into. Continuing on. Same sort of thing. I'm gonna actually just copy this. And then we'll bring this down. And okay, cool. Yeah, so the nice thing about this too is we use the 8 meter inverse here. That's why I like using the 8s, because now we can do this. Use the 4 meter ones. It goes right into here into the 2 meter. Create that nice sort of V-shaped transition. Just like that. Go with it. Just like that. This gets brought back. Inverted, just like that. You can use normal blocks here. Awesome. And then, of course, this isn't an actual block, but we can just scale up this one here. So we're going to use that one. Name it down. Wood. There's a 3 meter offset. That would be the right one. There we go. Same thing down here. And then this is where we start using the inverse transition blocks. Wood. There's a 2 meter to 3 meter. Would be the left one. Boom. So this is where it's going to start to sort of meld into the shape of this where it flares out. Go ahead and start bringing this back as well. We can use this. Except this will be. Oh. Except here, we need to do we gotta do this wood 1 meter to 2 meter. Expand that by 4 and 5. Nice. Block here. Then this is the same thing except inverted transitions 1 to 2 meter going. Yep. Expand it by 2. Go that way. And then we'll use a normal block here. That. Wood 2 meter to 3 meter. Just like that. 5. Boom. And that is how we complete the start section. Let's sit real quick. So now you can see it creates that nice sort of shape to it. So it's got that concavity there. Go ahead and fill this in. Awesome. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill this in. You guys can do whatever you want with this, with filling it in. If you use decoration, that's cool. Do it how you like. There's no right or wrong way. This is probably not the best way, just because I'm using mimics, and so it creates some gaps in the hole. If you want to fill it up with other stuff, you can. Doesn't matter to me. Awesome. Well, that is the lower part of the hull completed. As you can see, it's all been done with just transitions, no weird movements at all with triangle generation, deco, or anything like that. It all adheres to the grid system, which I find is pretty nice to stick with. Now there are ways to sort of smoothen this out as well if you don't like this sudden angle change. But personally, I don't really mind it too much. It's not something that's really seen very much anyway, but I still feel it accomplishes the shape. But if desired, you could probably um, deco an extra like transition into there to help sort of give that look to it. But otherwise, I think it works out just fine um, in achieving the overall shape. But without further ado, I think I'm going to leave it here, and we'll pick up the rest of the hull in a future video. I appreciate you guys for watching, and if you have any questions about anything so far, just be sure to let me know.